Hi everyone, welcome to the Miss Sayé show, and today I have the wonderful Deborah Breen from the Aspen Valley Hospital. Thank you so much for joining us today, Deborah.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. We would love to learn your magic. I know you have been involved with many charitable events and charitable initiatives, and I would love to learn, and hopefully the audience could learn as well, because at some point when we are at the time in our life that we are service and giving back is attractive to us, we just need to know where to start. So why don't you give us a little bit of a feedback about you and what you do with the Aspen Valley Hospital, and we can start there.
Sure. So I'm an accountant by training, and I sort of slid into fundraising very sideways. But it really started from my passion with numbers and finance that I started a role with actually early on in my career with Walmart Stores Incorporated, and worked in their marketing department and their customer service and corporate good neighbor programs. And that just led to, really kind of a lifelong passion I had really discovered about wanting to volunteer and help, and sort of jumping into things that way. I was able to do a lot of pro bono work for some different not-for-profits in the area, and Walmart Stores was very supportive of having its employees go out and help in different segments of the community. And what happened was it sort of rolled into a full-time position then. I went from being in public accounting to working in sort of marketing and corporate good neighbor and customer relations departments with Walmart. And after the birth of my first child, it was very hard to travel as much as I was, and I ended up accepting a job at Vassar Brothers Medical Center as their director of development. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I think like asking that question of where do people get started is thinking about things that you are passionate about. And it so happened that I had that first baby at that hospital, and I was very passionate about what they were doing and helping people. And that has tended to be a constant theme. I think that there's nothing more important in your life than your health and the health of those around you and those you love. And being able to be part of an organization like a hospital for me is very personally satisfying. Looking at ways to bring new technology in by connecting donors with the hospital needs. I kind of say I'm the match.com for donors in the hospital. I look at what the needs are of the organization and then what the donors are interested in supporting, and bringing those two things together. And it's a really, really worthwhile
Wonderful.
venture.
I often hear like you, successful people such as yourself, they say, oh, I was offered this position or I had this position, but I didn't know what I was doing. So how is it, do you think, that you guys land this job or land this opportunity without even thinking that you're qualified for it? How does that work? Is it the passion that is shining through, or what are your thoughts on that?
So in my very first role with Vassar Brothers Medical Center, and from there I actually headed up the final frontier for that organization and ended up in Rhinebeck, New York at Northern Dutchess Hospital. But for me, it was always kind of an anchoring strength of my finance background. So I had the ability to be able to talk to our donors about tax deductibility of gifts, credits, tax credits versus tax deductions. We were in an economic development zone, so we had certain tax credit benefits. I was able to talk about what the true cost of a gift is, depending on what tax bracket you were in. And I wouldn't say that tax deductibility is really the number one thing that drives a donor to make a gift. But certainly if you can show them how the true cost of a $100,000 gift to them is really maybe $60,000 or so, then I think that they start to think of it in terms of, boy, maybe I can afford that gift, or spreading it over a certain number of years instead of paying it all at once, or setting up a trust. Where they could benefit from either the income initially off of that trust, and the organization would benefit from the remainder of that trust once you pass, or kind of vice versa. There's also a charitable remainder trust where you would actually have the organization benefit from the profit and the dividends of that account for a certain duration of time. So all these kinds of things were conversations I was very comfortable with from the finance world. And so I think that that's one of the key things is if you're getting into something like this, you need to have an anchoring strength behind you.
Right.
You need to be able to bring something to the table that will allow you to be successful and allow you to really communicate what it is you need to communicate with your constituents.
Incredible. Thank you so much. That got me thinking too. You said the remainder of the trust, you can set it up that can go to your favorite organization.
Yes.
See, I just learned that. I'm very interested in that.
There are a lot of different vehicles for people to give. If somebody comes to me and they say, I really want to support this, but I don't think I can afford to do it, I am able to really give them some resources where they can look at it. And rarely have we not been able to figure out how to get them to that level of giving that they want, to make it be in terms of they're not going to be suffering financially, and really allowing them to do something really significant and really meaningful for both themselves personally and also the organization.
Wow. That's incredible. So you will actually offer solution that, hey, these are the ways that you could do this actually and make it happen. It's definitely gratifying to be able to contribute and give. And if you can help them by showing the way that they can benefit from it financially and not be stressed that, oh, this is too much for me. That's then I guess you and I need to have a talk when I come out to Aspen this week. I would love to. So with Aspen Hospital, I know you have done plenty. Have you reached the goal that you wanted? Did you even have a goal to reach? I want to hear a little bit about that.
So Aspen's kind of a funny story. I was sitting at my desk in Rhinebeck. I had gone from Vassar Brothers Medical Center as the director of development to going as the executive director to heading up the foundation at Northern Dutchess Hospital in Rhinebeck. And I had been there for about 12 years and got sort of an out of the blue call from a recruiter one day. And so my family has always had skiing in their blood. We've been very passionate. I was a former ski racer. My husband was a former ski jumper. We had the kids in race school. We, just really have always loved the mountains. I actually grew up in the Lake Placid area and was in Michigan very early on and actually learned to ski at Boyne Mountain in Kandahar and some of those really little mountains in Michigan. But anyways, I was sitting there and the recruiter said, before you say no when you're happy where you're at, let me tell you where two opportunities are. And he said, one is in Vail and one is in Aspen. And I had traveled out to Vail several times on ski trips, and I just loved the area. And had he said any other place in the world, I would have said, I'm good. But I thought, you know what, I think those times when, a door opens, I'm the kind of person that I feel like I at least need to walk through it and explore.
Right.
So I came out on sort of an exploratory mission, and I started sort of down the path with Vail first, and then started really looking at Aspen. And what was super appealing to me here in Aspen was that this was a brand new foundation that they wanted me to come out and start up. So they really did need somebody that had sort of an accounting background who could navigate through how you set yourself up as a 501c3 charitable organization, a supporting organization for a hospital, and also somebody who had sort of the marketing experience that could immediately develop some collateral materials and launch what they had requested, which was a $60 million capital campaign to support
60 or 60?
60 to support a $180 million master facility plan. So I thought to myself, okay, so you want me to come out there, you want me to relocate myself, my family, 2,000 miles across the country, set up a new foundation, get our tax exempt status, create the collateral materials, recruit a board, hire staff, develop a database, and launch a $60 million capital campaign. I was like, okay, what are we doing Wednesday? You ready to say that?
Inspiring.
And the CEO, Dave Ressler, the chairman of my board, John Sarpa, who I know they just really gave me the confidence that this was something that if anybody was going to do it, they thought that I could do it. So I I was just really excited about that kind of opportunity. Not very often do you get to launch that kind of a capital campaign for this kind of a hospital and truly elevate the entire healthcare base for our community. So here we are 7 years later, we have raised about $54 million. Career-wise, I've been involved with 3 significant campaigns and some smaller ones, but I'm actually career-wise approaching the $100 million mark with my career fundraising, which is also such an honor and a blessing. And when people ask, I don't know if I could be a fundraiser, and I always say, I'm not really a fundraiser. I am an accountant, and I'm a really good storyteller. And I think going back to that match.com, where I'm really able to talk with people about the need and then show them how they could really be a part of it. And I think that is, you've got to be passionate about what you're raising money for. And every day I get to walk into the hospital and see those philanthropic dollars at work. And it's very, very exciting.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I learned so much by listening to you. For people who want to get started, either start a movement or become part of the movement, they say, okay, I want to do some work. I want to do some giving back. Where should they start? What should be the first step, in your opinion?
The very first step is they need to identify what they are passionate about. What is it that makes you get up out of bed in the morning?
Right.
What is it that you've seen that has inspired you? And then the next step is, what kinds of organizations support that passion? And is that something that you could really get involved with and roll up your sleeves and help? There are so many organizations and great organizations out there, and so many of them need help. They need volunteers. They need people to help connect them to other people. My daughter, she volunteers at the local animal shelter here. We talked about that. She's going to bring you over there. And she plays with the kittens and the cats and the dogs who, don't really get a lot of social interaction. And so she kind of sort of remotely sort of fosters them while they're still in captivity, so to speak, until they find their forever homes. And so I just think it's things like that. There's such small things that can make such a big, big difference.
Absolutely. I love what you said, and I 100% agree with it, but I needed to hear it from you, knowing how successful you are in this area. But I also often say, with my 501c3 Sayé.org, that I'm helping women and children globally, a lot of people come to me and like, I want to do something. I'm like, let's do. What do you want to do? And it has commercialized that if you want to do some charitable activity, you have to build something, like literally with your hands. And like a lot of people come to me like, let's go build something, like build a home or build something. Like, that's wonderful, but that's not what I'm needing right now. Like, you can do this, you can become a volunteer, you can, what are you good at? Like, somebody says, well, I'm good at building website. I'm like, well, do you want to build a website? Do you want to start a campaign on the internet? So it's very important to figure out what is it that you're passionate about, and then stand up for it, or find organizations that are already do it. And then you can see how you can empower those organizations. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. In your opinion, how could we impact globally where we are locally by doing charitable work? How could our charitable local work could impact in a global scale?
It's interesting. And I think you talked about it some when people come to you and say, how can I help? A lot of times the best way you can help, honestly, is to support it financially. For some people, that's $1. For some people, that's $1 billion. And I think that a lot of these organizations, they do have some boots on the ground. They do have some people that are there, and they have their kind of vision, and they have their, their engines kind of firing on all cylinders. But what they need is they need financial assistance to kind of move things to the next level. And I think that organizations really need to kind of consider what it is that you truly need. You don't want to get too far off base. We had an instance here where somebody wanted to donate to support a dialysis center at the hospital. And that's a great service. However, we don't have a population base here that's large enough to keep a center like that proficient. And so sometimes you also need to know when to say no, that that's not really what the organization needs. So I think that really when you want to get involved with a organization, ask them what they need, not so much what you want to do, but what is it that they need? And that's that very grassroots effort. You need to be willing to do things that are for the benefit of the greater good and not just for your own personal satisfaction and benefit. And I think that that's something that's really that organizations need to be okay with telling people exactly what they need. And I help out very quietly a lot of different organizations in the area, and they just don't even know really where to start or how to ask for money. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, if money were no object, what would you do with the organization? And it's interesting when they kind of sit back, but money is an object. I said, I get that. But what ultimately is your long-term vision and goal for this organization? And once you kind of put together that case statement and that statement for support and what you're trying to do, it's easy to align everybody sort of behind that. And those are the kinds of people that you want involved with the organization. So, people need to be aware, sometimes they want to do things to make themselves feel good. You got to remember that if it's not something that is a priority of the organization, it can actually side rail some of the efforts of that organization. So be open to really seeing what the organization wants, and the organization needs to really be open to telling the people that want to help exactly what they need.
Incredible. And for someone who wants to have the organization, this is what I just picked up from what you said, is that if money is not your obstacle, where is your organization is heading? Imagine you have all, where are you going? That gives the person the clarity of where they're going. So when they are asking for help, or they're asking for money, or they're asking for donation, they have a clarity, because clarity is power. This is what we are doing, instead of kind of just seeing very short-sighted. So that's a very great way to look at it. Where is this going if the money is not the problem here? Now that we're going through COVID and we are isolating, how do you go about your fundraising events? Because I know your fundraising events were these large events. You had the polo events, you had the snow polo, you did the snowball events. So now that we don't have access to those, have you seen a decrease in your donation, or how do you handle that?
Yeah. So I was really nervous going into the summer. The summer in Aspen is the time when I'm able to really connect with so many of our donors on a personal level and find out what's going on with them and just see them face to face. And they're, really my most favorite meetings of the whole year is just when I'm able to really get to know the people that are supporting this organization and just asking what's inspired them. Those are such key meetings. And so very early on in March, when we saw what was coming at us and that it was not going to be a typical summer here, it was not going to be a summer where I could meet really one-on-one with people, when we could have these events where I could see people face to face. And so we really kind of retrenched and we canceled all of our public events. And what we really started doing was just talking to our donors and, just emails and letters, and just really communicating the continued need for support. And it has really been remarkable that even in the absence of being able to see them, the relationships that we've built over the years, I think, have withstood this crisis. And people understand that when the hospital had to shut down elective surgeries, and when we had to still keep staffing levels at peak, and we had to increase all of our supplies and the kinds of technology that we had available, and all those things came at a great cost, that they stepped forward in a big way. In fact, last week, we just got another $1 million gift from someone who is just a very grateful patient that said, this is how I can help. And over the course of this past few months, we've actually raised close to $3 million just with people that want to know how they can help, how they can help the hospital weather this storm and get through it, replace some of the cash reserves that have been so depleted through this whole crisis, and really not lose the momentum, because we have this huge $180 million master facility plan hanging in the balance. We have 3 of the 4 phases done, but we still have to raise that final 12 million to get the rest of this project complete. And so while we're certainly taking the funds for our emergency relief fund and for some of our COVID initiatives, people aren't losing track of the site that the only reason we've been able to do what we're doing and to really address this crisis head on is because 3 of the 4 phases have been done, and we've been able to build in private rooms and negative pressure rooms and bring more respirators and a dedicated ICU and all those kinds of things. Those are what has allowed us to do what we're doing today.
Lovely. I'm so happy to hear. Bravo on what you're doing. Thank you so much. And Deborah, I know that you have a strong financial background, and you're seasoned. But I think one of the biggest element that pops at me is your beautiful personality and your kind heart. I think that's very important. When you talk to people, when you're passionate and it comes from your heart, another human will feel that. And I think that's so important. And this is not something that you can buy and you cannot put on. It needs to be real and authentic, and you have that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on this show and sharing with us. So hopefully more people can get inspired and get involved. If someone wants to donate to Aspen Valley Hospital Foundation, how could they go about it?
The best way is to just go to our website, aspenvalleyhospital.org, and go to our foundation page. There's a big donate now button. They can certainly call us here, let us know if they want more information. 970-544-1302 is our number here. They can certainly shoot me an email, dbreen@aspenhospital.org. There's many ways, I think,
To get in touch.
to get in touch. And I thank you for this opportunity. I mean,
Thank
what
you
an
so
honor
much,
to be on
Deborah.
the show with you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate being on the show and sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show, and see you guys next Saturday.